It has been 1 year and 8 months since the war between Russia and Ukraine began, and we have gradually discovered that the Ukrainian battlefield is a testing ground for Russian-made weapons. Those so-called very advanced Russian-made weapons are not as previously advertised. Next, we will take stock of those Russian-made weapons that are strong on the outside and weak on the inside. The Russian Aerospace Force has long been regarded as one of the top 3 air forces in the world. It has a series of advanced fighter jets such as Su-57, Su-35, and Su-30. It also owns the Tu-160 heavy bomber known as the White Swan of Death. However, on the Russian-Ukrainian battlefield, the Russian aerospace forces not only failed to achieve ideal results, but suffered considerable losses due to the Ukrainian army's counterattack. The first and most disappointing thing is the Su-35 fighter jet. The Su-35 is a 4th-generation heavy fighter that is invincible below 5th-generation fighters. Since the beginning of the war between Russia and Ukraine, the Su-35 has been shot down many times. Just at the end of September, another Su-35 was shot down by the Russian Army's own S-300 anti-aircraft missile. Since even fighters like the Su-35 have been shot down, let alone the remaining fighters of the Russian aerospace forces. According to statistics from the U.S. Department of Defense, the Russian aerospace forces have currently lost 31 Su-25 attack aircraft, 9 Su-24 fighter bombers, 14 Su-34 fighter bombers, 11 Su-30 fighter jets, and 3 Su-35 fighter jets, many of which were shot down by the Russian army themselves due to malfunctions in the identification friend or foe system. As for the reasons for the heavy losses of the Russian aerospace forces, firstly, the lack of precision-guided weapons forced pilots to take huge risks to carry out low-altitude bombing missions. Secondly, the backwardness of avionics equipment. For example, the Snow Leopard airborne radar, which is promoted by Russia as having a detection range of up to 400 kilometers, is at best a passive phased array radar, which is a whole generation behind the radars of Chinese and American fighter aircraft of the same generation. The Tu-160 heavy bomber, which is considered to be comparable to the American B-2 stealth bomber, has not performed satisfactorily on the Russian-Ukrainian battlefield, and has not achieved many impressive results since the war began. Although there were many sorties dispatched and the amount of ammunition projected was quite sufficient, the hit rate of the launched missiles was even more difficult to say. The performance of the Russian Navy was even worse. In particular, the Russian Black Sea Fleet, which has an extremely important strategic position, ostensibly wants to demilitarize Ukraine, but now it is almost demilitarized. In April 2022, just 2 months after the start of the war between Russia and Ukraine, the Black Sea Fleet's flagship Moscow guided missile cruiser sank in the Black Sea. Ukraine only used its own developed Neptune light anti-ship missile to sink it. At that time, many people were confused, judging from the ammunition capacity of the Neptune missile, which was only 150 kilograms. It was impossible to sink the cruiser Moscow with a displacement of 11,000 tons. Later, after expert analysis, it turned out that the missile launchers on both sides of the cruiser Moscow killed it. The Neptune missile hit the missile launchers on both sides of the ship, causing the loaded volcanic rock heavy missile to explode, and the Russian ship sank. The case of the Moscow cruiser shows that although the various types of warships currently in service in the Russian Navy still maintain world-class tonnage, they have long lagged behind the times in terms of hull design. So far, the Russian Black Sea Fleet has lost more than 10 warships, and even its headquarters building has been attacked by Ukrainian missiles. The life and death of Fleet Commander Sokolov is still unknown. Compared with the Russian Aerospace Force and Navy, the Russian Army's performance on the Ukrainian battlefield is indeed much better. In the early days of the Russo-Ukrainian War, the Russian Army launched a multi-channel armored cluster raid. The scale of its offensive was so fast that we felt that Ukraine would soon fall apart. As a result, the Russian Army's lightning offensive ended hastily within a few weeks due to insufficient logistical supplies. Many Russian troops abandoned equipment that had run out of fuel on the spot, leaving it to the Ukrainian army. What was originally a blitz turned into a battle of escape. The reason why the Russo-Ukrainian war has been delayed to this day has a lot to do with the Russian army's original escape, abandoning its weapons and equipment. Now, the Russo-Ukrainian war has entered a stage of attrition. Although the Russian army maintains an artillery advantage that is 5 times that of the Ukrainian army, the accuracy of artillery strikes is far from ideal. Compared with the Ukrainian army that has become NATO, the Russian army seems to still be stuck in the World War II period, and its understanding of information warfare is seriously lacking. The most commendable thing about the Russian army at present is the 3 Surovikin lines deployed on the southern front of Ukraine. They effectively resisted the Ukrainian army's attack during the Ukrainian army's big counteroffensive in the summer. We have to admit that in 2023, the Ukrainian army has already taken the initiative on the battlefield. If the Russia-Ukraine war continues to drag on, it is difficult to say whether the Russian army can persist. At present, for the Russian army, it seems to be struggling on the Ukrainian battlefield.